Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, I'm Dottie and I'm an alcoholic. Hi. And I love being sober, and I love the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I want to say happy birthday to the birthday people. It's exciting. A birthday is more exciting than the others. In fact, it's funny, when the kids were little, we used to have a lot of potlucks and things over at the house. And we always sang, you know, happy birthday, keep coming back. And when I think Jackie was 7 or something, we had some of her little friends over. And the kids were singing, and at the end of the happy birthday, our kids said, keep coming back. You know, they'd heard it so much, they just thought that was part of happy birthday, you know. But, but it's good to be here. And like I say, I love this program. I'm so grateful for what it's done in my life. And I mean, it's been a super meeting. I mean, listening to everybody and the sharing that's gone on here. It's just like a shot in the arm. Well, to tell you a little bit, I mean, I didn't always think that way, to tell you a little bit about what I used to be like and what happened, what I'm like today. In fact, I almost didn't get here tonight. I was having some car problems. I had some last week and got that taken care of. Then I had this thing where my car's all vibrating. I get over to pick up Noemi, and this thing is, and so I'm trying up on the roof of the car, trying to reach up and fix this deal and everything, and this necklace on that got caught as I'm up trying to stretch over this car, and it broke in about 8 pieces. And I just thought, I must not be supposed to go tonight, you know. But you just go anyway, you know. And then you get here, and you're always so excited and glad you did, you know, because. But I'll tell you, for a while I thought, gee, what are they trying to tell me? But anyway, but it's fun, you know. I was born and raised in Kansas, and that's the original Dorothy from Kansas, you know. But anyway, but you know, Kansas is a dry state, so I didn't grow up with alcoholism in the family or that kind of thing. But the thing I like to talk about mostly is the feelings I had, how I felt. You know, many times at meetings, I could always identify with how people felt at different times in their life and different feelings. I could not always identify with the situations and the places and things, because we're all in different places and different situations, but I always could identify with everyone I've ever heard when they talk about how they felt at different times of their life. And so I talk a lot about feelings. I mean, I grew up, and like I say, in Kansas, and we didn't have anything materially, but neither did anybody else around us, and we didn't know we didn't have it because we didn't have TV, you know, back then. And you know, we didn't know we didn't have it, so we were just as happy. But, you know, but I had a lot of illness when I was growing up. I had asthma and hay fever, and I had a lot of allergies. And my big thing was just to be able to breathe. I could never breathe. And my sinuses were always full, and I had earaches, and, you know, and then I had these allergies from different times of the year, and all this. I mean, it was always one thing or another. Then I had a weak stomach, a very weak stomach, and I could throw up at anything. And the boys in high school used to talk about something unpleasant, and I'd perform, you know, and I wouldn't get out of the biology class or whatever. And then it was always very embarrassing to me, but I couldn't control it. And I also got car sick, you know. I was in high school, land the big date, and then I'd get sick and throw up before we got there. It's hard to impress anybody, you know. I was either blowing my nose or throwing up or giggling or something, you know. But you just can't impress people that way. But anyway, like I said, I had all of these feelings I never knew how to deal with. And I developed a giggling problem when I was young. And when I got in a tight situation, I would giggle. I mean, and I always laughed when it would be the worst thing to ever do would be laugh. You know, and the thought would go through my mind, oh, whatever you do, don't laugh. And the minute that thought ran through my mind, I became hysterical. And, you know, and then I'd sort of hold it until I couldn't hold it anymore. Then I'd make loud, screechy noises and everything, and, you know, it'd be worse than ever. And, I mean, I was drug out of church many times, you know, down the center aisle, you know, giggling hysterically, and I'd get everybody else to laugh. And, you know, and they told me I was sacrilegious, and I didn't have respect for authority, and all of these things, you know, and it's not that way. I didn't know it was. I was just scared to death, you know. But I developed this. I mean, I could never recite. I could never read. I couldn't ever do anything because I was so petrified. I'd rather get an F than ever have to get up in front of a group. And I'll tell you, I felt that way when I came in here, too. I mean, I thought, oh, God, I'll do anything, but just don't ever make me get up there. I mean, you know, and I didn't for a long time, other than they told me, I remember when at a meeting when I was new and they called on me to participate, I said, oh, I can I give my little, please, anything, you know. And they'd say all I had to do was get up and state my name and my disease, and I could sit down, and that's all I did for years. I'd say, I'm Dottie alcoholic, I'd giggle hysterically, and I'd go sit down. And everything, but I mean, because I just couldn't control this giggling problem. But and so I had all these emotions, and the thing I remember growing up is the idea was that if anything happens or you never talk about it, you never mention it again, you just pretend it never happened. And then it's going to go away. But you know, it's funny, those things don't go away, you know, and so you just keep pushing things down and pushing things down. All your feelings or your hurts or your emotions or all anger, and I know they said, oh, don't ever have anger, that's bad, and boy, I thought, so I didn't have it, you know. I mean, I didn't know how it was when you had it. They never told you if you had these things how you felt or anything. They just said it's bad and don't have it, so you just don't. You know, you just put another name on it, you know, or another something, thinking it's this or that, or turn it against yourself into, depression or whatever. But anyway, this is the kind of emotions I had. And like I say, I didn't drink. I needed to drink long before I had one, but I wasn't around it, and I didn't have anything to drink till after I was out of high school. And I had gone to Denver, and these people took me out to this dinner place, and it was a fancy place. You know, they didn't have those where I came from, but anyway, they had drinks, and I didn't know the names of any, and so these people told me what to get. And so I ordered this drink, and it was called The Thing, so they brought this drink, and it was on fire, and the siren went off, and they put a little fireman hat on me, and then all these people from the restaurant followed him. I mean, I guess that's when you take somebody new there, you have them get this, I guess. But anyway, but I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know if that's what they did all the time or what. But anyway, they told me I'd like it, and I did, you know. And I thought, jeepers, this is good. It's like drinking soda pop. I thought, guy, I mean, you know, this can't be so bad, all those things you hear. So I wanted another one right away without the fire, you know. And and I just remembered it. It was so neat. And I couldn't wait till I could go have another drink. And, of course, people took me other places and on other times before I went back home. And I learned the names of other drinks. And I loved it from the beginning. It was wonderful. It was like when I drank, it was magic. I mean, those feelings I had, all that giggling problem and all that not being able to talk and not fitting in and never quite being able to handle things, when I drank, it took that away. And I just felt like I just could do anything. I mean, I danced better. I mean, I could talk. I just felt a part of, and I loved that magic. And so, it was wonderful. So I couldn't wait till I could go again and have another drink because it was like a social lubricant. It took that knot I always had. I always had a knot in here. But when I drank, it took the knot away. And then it just was smooth. I mean, I could just do all kinds. I could sing at the piano bars and stuff. I just could do lots of stuff. And so I just loved it. And of course, I was never a good drinker because I got in a lot of trouble from the beginning. But I had an excuse. I got sick when I drank. I was never a good drinker. And I didn't have a long drinking career because I just got so sick. I got physically ill. I mean, I threw up all the time. But you see, I had a built-in excuse. It was that weak stomach I've always had. And it must be one of those squirmy things that made me throw up, and I didn't hear it consciously. Or I would say it's a delayed reaction from the car ride or something. Whatever it was, I would say it's one of these things because I didn't want to not drink. And so I just continued drinking. And now I never wanted to get drunk. I just wanted to have enough so I could feel okay and so I could fit in. I didn't ever want to get drunk and do those things. But you see, I didn't know about it. And I know that people would tell me. I remember when I wouldn't remember everything. At least people would tell me I did things. They'd say that I knocked things over, I fell down, or I slurred my words, or I broke something. They'd tell me, I knew they were lying. I would never do that. And I didn't remember it anyway, so I thought they were lying. Because it would be where I would remember going, and I'd remember coming home. I just thought it was a short night, and, because I didn't remember all the in-betweens. But then it got where I wouldn't remember coming home. And I didn't know where my car was. And I didn't know how I got home. And I'd be petrified. I would go out having one of my younger brothers, before he died, go out trying to find my car and find out how I got there. And I was always so grateful it was okay and that I found my car. And, and all these emotions. And I'd say, okay, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink. And I'd think that it's going to be different next time. I'll get my system. I'll get it's my system. That's what it is. I've got this weak system. So I'm going to fix that and then I can drink. It'll be okay. And like I said, I had all these emotions, and the giggling thing. I always, like I say, I would laugh. I remember when I was a kid and my youngest brother died. And I remember one of the things my mother called me from the hospital. I used to take care of my invalid grandmother when I was a little girl. And my mother called me over there and told me to pray because they couldn't bring my little brother out from under the ether. And I prayed real hard and my little brother died. And I thought it was my fault, because she told me to do that, to pray, and I just thought I didn't pray good enough, and he died, so it's my fault. Now, they didn't tell me that, but this is how my emotional makeup was. This is how I felt. And I remember that, when they buried him in the graveside, and I was hysterical. And I giggled all the way out of church, and I giggled at the graveside, and I knew I was a bad person. And so all of these, I took responsibility and guilt for all of these things. And that's why when I drank, it relieved me from that. And then when my little brother take me out to find my car, and I'd be so grateful, and I wouldn't want him to tell my folks and stuff, And so then I'd get my system in gear. And I'd do everything I could not to get drunk. I drank olive oil before I went out because somebody said it would coat your stomach and you couldn't get drunk. And I drank cream before I went out. Somebody said if you drank cream, you couldn't get drunk. And one time somebody told me if you ate chocolate, you couldn't get drunk. And I ate a bunch of Hershey bars before I went out. Mercy. With a weak stomach. Oh, gosh. And I don't know where I got all this good information, but obviously it didn't work, or you'd have a different speaker, But anyway, and I always ate dinner before I went out to dinner because somebody told me you couldn't get drunk on a full stomach. And I thought, well, by the time I go out and have a few drinks, and then it'll be time to eat. I'll just eat a little bit. My date will just think I'm dainty and feminine. Of course, the only difference was I was a fatter drunk. But then you've got more to perform with a weak stomach. But anyway, I just tried everything. I remember my first date when I came to California. I had never seen an ocean till I came here, and my first date was down on the marina. and people took me down there. This girl from the church choir fixed me up with her cousin, and we went down on a great big boat down on the marina, and the only boat I'd ever been on in my life was a rowboat my daddy made in the garage. And we had a little man-made lake in town, and that's the only time my boating career. And when you come out here to California, people are worldly out here. They know everything, and they've been fancy places in Hollywood and big stuff, and they've been to all these fancy places, and the only place I'd ever been was A&W or Bobo's Drive-In, and that never impressed anybody. But, I hadn't had a drink, and I couldn't think of anything to say, and I had this giggling problem, and so it was awful. But, and so I kept trying to think, the more I tried to think of something to say, the worse it would get, I would just have that paralyzing fear, and I couldn't think of anything. And finally I remember that my brother had a friend with a boat, and when I got a chance to say something, I'll never forget, I said to this guy, I said, well, I have a brother, and I said, he has a friend that has a 19-inch boat. And I didn't know I'd said inch instead of foot, And I'll never forget the look on the guy's face. He looked at me and he said, oh, really? He said, well, what's he do, play in the bathtub with it? And then I wish I'd have just shut up, That's why I was so afraid to talk. I always said something stupid, It always came out so awful. And, of course, then I didn't say anything till I had a drink, And once I had a drink, it took that panic away. And then I could settle down. And then I could be okay, I thought. I don't know what anybody else thought, But, the thing that controlled me all my life was not what other people thought of me, but what I thought other people thought of me. And that controlled me all my life. I wanted so desperately for other people to approve, I guess because I didn't approve of myself. And so it mattered what they thought. But anyway, I got on with my drinking, and I gotten a lot of things happened to me when I drank. A lot of things when you tell everybody about all the fun you had out there, spreading joy to the world, and having fun. And, of course, there were all those things I was ashamed of. I wish I hadn't done it. I wish I hadn't said it. I wish I could turn the calendar back so I didn't have to know what I'd done or what I said or who I hurt. But the thing I like to remember most is my last drunk, because it's what brought me to you people, and it's not necessarily where I ended up in the worst place or the worst situation, but it was the end for me. And I had my last drink, it'll be 30 years this Christmas that I had my last drink. And I had gone, my parents had, my dad had retired, my parents had moved out here, and a couple of my brothers and my roommates were school teachers, had gone back to the Midwest for the holidays, and I went to spend Christmas with my family. And I knew long before this I could never guarantee my conduct once I took a drink. I had tried everything, to be able to control my drinking, and nothing worked. And so on Christmas Eve, I had gone out with the girls from the office and had a few drinks, but it's okay on Christmas Eve, everybody does. Okay, it's all right. And of course, when I got to my parents' home, I was in rare shape when I got there. And we went next door to the neighbors and to an open house, and I was in a blackout right after we got there, and I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything until I woke up at my family's home the next day, and they were talking about people that were at this open house, and I didn't even know they were there. But I didn't let my family know. I just made up my mind I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink, and I'm not going to perform. And so I didn't drink because we were having all these people over, none of them alcoholic. And so I didn't drink till dinner was on the table. And then I got to thinking, I'm only going to have one drink. I cannot possibly get drunk. I'm only going to have this one drink to take the edge off, so I can just fit in and feel part of my own family. I'm only going to have this one. Of course, I fixed it in the kitchen in a water glass when nobody was looking. And I don't remember finishing it. I don't remember anything until I came to sometime in the middle of the night at my family's home. And I know I came to and it was dark outside, and I laid there with my thoughts, and I couldn't go back to sleep. That same thing, what'd I do? What'd I say? Who'd I hurt this time?
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And no matter how hard I tried to remember, I couldn't. And as I was laying there thinking, if I could just get up and get out of this house, if I can just get up and get out of here so I don't have to find out what I've done, or what I've said, or who I hurt. I just want to get out. I don't ever want to face them again. I don't ever want to do this again. I thought if I can just get out of this house. And I'm laying there trying to think of a way to get out of the house, and I heard my mother up. And I'm sure my mother was up because she was unable to sleep laying in there worrying about me. But anyway, as soon as I heard her up, I got up and I met her in the hallway. And my mother had that look in her eye that every alcoholic has seen in the eyes of the people that love you. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's your mother or your father or your husband or your wife or your children, but every alcoholic has seen that look, that hollow, hopeless, bewildered, fearful, panicky, disgusted look that the non-alcoholic has. And that's the look my mother had. She looked at me and she said, "Oh, why do you drink so much? I was so ashamed of you again." God, I couldn't stand it. Wish I could have looked at her and said, "Mom, you don't understand. The only reason I drink like this is it's the only thing that makes me able to function. It's the only thing that makes me equal out there, Mom. I've never wanted to make you ashamed. The only thing I've ever wanted to do is make you proud of me." I wish I could go out there and be like my brothers. No matter what they did, they made the folks proud of them. That's all I wanted to do. But you see, I didn't know those things. I hadn't been to you people. I didn't know. So the only thing I could do is the same thing I had done many times before, and that's look at the floor. So I didn't have to look in her eyes and tell her to get off my back and leave me alone, because I had more important things to do than listen to her bitch at me. Of course, I got out of there, but it wasn't soon enough, because she told me of some of my performance and how I'd embarrassed them so, and they were so ashamed. They didn't know what they were going to do with me. And where had they gone wrong, and why was God punishing them, and on and on. I couldn't stand it. But anyway, I got out of there, and I got in my car, and I'm driving back to my apartment, praying to die. And I went in, threw myself on the bed, and said the same thing I always used to say: "Why me, God? Why me? I don't know why you made the mistake of putting me on this earth. And if you did make the mistake of putting me here, I don't know why you leave me here. I don't know why you didn't take me rather than my younger brothers. My parents are good, decent people. They don't deserve having someone like me in the family." Finally, I said, "God, if there's anything that you have for me to do in this life, I wish you would please show me what it is and show me how to do it." And it was shortly after this that I thought of a girlfriend of mine. She and I at one time had belonged to an organization called Bachelorettes, and she had joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and she had gotten married and lived real close to me, and she just had a new baby, and I called her on the phone. I don't know what time it was. I know it was still dark outside, and I got her out of bed. She wanted to know what I wanted. And I told her I wanted to come and see what she got for Christmas. And so she told me I couldn't come over till 1 o'clock. And I didn't any more than get there till there was a knock at her door, and it was an AA couple. Both of them sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know how they are. I mean, they come in hugging and kissing and wonderful and all over the place. And I'm sick and hungover and my life's over and I want to die. And what do they do but talk about Alcoholics Anonymous? They're drinking coffee. So I thought I'd listen, And so I was listening. I'll never forget the guy because he mentioned the word blackout. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "It's when you drink so much you can't remember." Boy, I shut up. I didn't ask any more questions. And then he followed it by saying, he said, "Do you know that every time you have a blackout, you get brain damage?" Oh, mercy, I couldn't get that off my mind. I was never the brightest thing in the world to begin with. And I thought, now I've got all this brain damage. I'll tell you, I couldn't wait till they jolly hoed out. And, they didn't any more than leave another AA. She came wonderful and through, and she finally left, and I got up the nerve to say, "I may have had one of those once." I said, "But I just want to know what I can drink so I won't get drunk." And she said 7-Up. And of course, I never thought of that. But anyway, she took me to my first meeting that Friday after Christmas. Now, I went as a visitor. I certainly was not an alcoholic when I came here. I mean, they didn't have it on TV or the newspapers or all these places. You had to know somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody, and you never heard the word alcoholic. I mean, you know, it's just kind of the secret deal. And you didn't come in by yourself. People just didn't pop into meetings, you know. And so when she took me to this meeting, it was one of the biggest ones in our area at the time. There was about 135 people there. And when we went there, there's the next door neighbor to my folks, and I let her know I'm there visiting with my friend. And she took me up to the second row. And they asked, then they'd have whoever brought you in, they'd say, did anybody bring any newcomers? And if so, would you stand and introduce them? So whoever brought you would stand up, and they'd give their name and say they were alcoholic. They'd say, and this is, and they'd introduce this new person. Say, well, I didn't know that, of course. And they asked if anybody brought any newcomers. And when they said this, I turned around to look. I wanted to see what they looked like when they brought them in. You know, I thought maybe they brought them in on stretchers or something, you know. I mean, and of course, as I'm looking back at the people, she stood up. And she pulled me up. She says, Dottie, and it's her first meeting. And I almost died. I thought, my God, the word's out. I mean, you know, there's nothing left to do but go to these meetings and be miserable the rest of my life. You know, and of course, you know, I don't know if any of you know about trying to be a martyr around here. But, I mean, you have to stand in line. You know, and then they play this game. Can you top this? I mean, you know, no matter how bad you've got it, somebody's got it worse. Really gripes you when you want attention. But anyway, then they told me, they said, get a lot of telephone numbers, and they said, call before you take a drink or any mood-changing chemical. They said, if you take a drink and call us, we're going to hang up on you. We're not even going to talk to you, even if you've had one drink. They said, because you're going to have to finish out your drunk. And they said, so if you ever want to talk to us, you call before you take a drink. Well, I remember one time, I mean, everybody's going to a big roundup. I couldn't afford to go, and my sponsor and a bunch of them were going, and I must have had some major sadness of some kind, and so I decided to call. Now, of course, you never let them in on the secret, you know, you make them guess. And, you know, and you'd call, hi, you know, and they're either changing the baby or sitting down for dinner or whatever, you know, and, oh, okay, and you hang up and be mad at them, you know. And then I'd say, see, they don't care, they really don't care, and you get this big thing going. Of course, I forgot whatever it was I was sad about because I had a mad. And you know, when you're new, as long as you've got a negative emotion to nurture, you're in your comfort zone. So, you know, I mean, I just thought, well, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to these meetings and tell them off. Of course, I never did. I was afraid they wouldn't like me. But anyway, then the group that became they said to get a group and have a home group. And but you know, the thing that I remember from that is when they said call before you take a drink, they didn't say call and we're going to take your pain away. They didn't say call and we're going to solve your problem. The only thing they said was call before you take a drink. And you see, I found out it was unimportant what anybody said on the other end of the line. It was even unimportant if they answered the phone. The important thing was I took the action. I did what they asked me to do, and I'm sober almost 30 years. And that's all I've done. I've done what they've asked me to do. Not because I thought it would work or anything else or because I wanted to, you know, but I just did it because they told me to. And that's what it is here, you know, and I found it's necessary to work these steps that are outlined in the big book. And I had the kind of sponsor no matter what happened. I mean, anything could happen. I could have a flat tire, any kind of thing, and I'm going, you know, and I call, you know, you want a little sympathy, you know, talk to your sponsor, tell them this bad day, and you tell them, you know, and she'd say, well, have you written your inventory? You know, I mean, what warped thinking, you know, I mean, like as if your inventory is going to fix your car. Of course, you know, you never say that to him. I'd say, well, I'm working on it, I'd tell her, you know, and so everything. But, you know, and, you know, I'd write a little bit, you know, because I knew she was going to check. But anyway, you know, and finally, I had my inventory written like it's outlined in the big book. And I found out it's a lot easier to do step 5 if you've done 4. And, you know, so it's a lot easier to do the maintenance steps, you know, if you've done the first ones. Just works that way. So I just, you know, like I said, I did what they asked me to do. And at the group that became my home group, it was, I mean, you know, they said the clique met in the kitchen, and I wanted to be in the clique. And so I met in the kitchen, and that's before we had styrofoam cups. We used to do dishes. And, the big conversation at the, washing the dishes was to get the lipstick off the cups and this and that. It was really fun. But I liked it because I would rather do that than talk. And that way, it's hard when you're new because people bring you in and they introduce you to 50 or 100 people and then they all go on talking and you just stand there like a lump, trying to look cool or act or fit in or something, But it's a lot easier if you're doing something, so I loved it. Man, I just hit that kitchen and I'm out there doing, at least you're doing something, it's better than just standing there, So I was active in the kitchen. I liked that. But, don't ever make me talk. And, so, like I said, I didn't for years because I giggled, and they nicknamed me Giggles because every time I'd have to get up and say I'm Dottie, alcoholic, I'd giggle hysterically and go sit down. After I was so they had an election, they made me secretary, and I told them I couldn't do it. They had to read announcements. And they said, well, you got to try. And so I did the first time, and I just got hysterical, and somebody else had to finish reading them, so they tried the next week, and they decided I should be treasurer. And then after, they told me to go to the institutional committee meeting, and I went, and they were giving out panels that night, and they gave me one. And I said, but they don't know. I said, I can't talk. I'll never forget this. And you'll remember Herb, you remember Bill Miller? That's when he was head of the institution. Great big guy, sweet man. And I'll never forget him. He said, well, do you have a car? And I said, well, yeah. And he said, well, do you have a valid driver's license? I said, yes. And then he says, well, all you have to do is get the people and you can take them to put the meeting on. And I thought, oh, I can do that. And so they gave me a panel at 3rd and San Pedro in the middle of Skid Row in Los Angeles. And I took the panel up there for over a year and a half, and it was like a turning point because, I would go up there and take the people up there, and I would get finally where I could at least introduce the leader, and then I got where I could lead a meeting and things up there. And I remember, though, they'd bring the people in off the streets a lot of times at that time, and the people could come in just to get a cup of coffee and a donut. And I remember some of them. I remember in particular one night I was up there and this guy came in. He was shaking so bad. And I remember sitting there praying, oh, God, just let him get that coffee down. Oh, just let him get it down, Lord. Just help him. Just praying. See, and I took my mind off myself for just a second. And I thought of another human being. Then I went back to the obsession of myself. But, that's what these steps do. It's a slow process. From completely and totally, I had my eyes turned inward. Was I doing what you wanted me to do? Was I okay? Did you like me? Yay, yay, and all this. And it was a slow process through working these steps and doing the action that all of a sudden I could look at my fellow man and be equal for the first time in my life. I was never equal before. I was either above them or below them, but I was never equal till long after I was sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what this program does. And I'll tell you, the important thing about this program is your foundation. And I'll tell you, because the storms come and the hurricanes come, and you've got to have that foundation so that you'll stay standing when everything else goes. And that's these steps. I work for surgeons today, I was assisting one of the surgeons today, doing back office today. But anyway, I remember the first time I was back at this job and I was working with one of the surgeons and I was new and a gentleman came in that had had an abdominal aortic aneurysm where they cut him from stem to stern. He was a great big man and he came in and when it got him undressed and took the dressing off, I thought, oh, thank God it's healed. Me and my weak stomach, I thought, oh, mercy. And I'll never forget the surgeon came in, he said, oh my, he said, this is healing too fast on the outside. He said, we're going to have to open this up. And he opened the wound up because he said we have to debris the wound. Because if it heals too fast on the outside, the infection can go to another part of the body or be worse than before. And so he would open that up and debris that wound. And then the man would come back every other day and then once a week until it was all healed. And and I thought, that's like AA. We come in here with all these wounds, emotional wounds, and hurt wounds and rejections and fears and the things that have been done to us that weren't right, or some things we caused or whatever. But we all come in here with our scars and the emotional wounds. And what this program does and what these 12 steps do is they open up those wounds and debride them so that they can heal from the inside out. That's why it's important to work these steps in your life. Because you see, otherwise we can come in here and cover up those wounds. And we can run around still with that hurt and that pain. And then, it's liable to break out in another area of our life or another place, that will cause ourselves and others pain, because we've not healed some of the wounds. That's why it is so important to work these steps. And it's so important to do the maintenance step, keep debriding those wounds till they heal properly. And that's why I love this program. But I'll tell you, like I say, it's, I was single when I came in. I married on this program, and I married another member of this fellowship. He was a widower, and he had 2 children, and I became a wife and a mother all at the same time. And I knew what it was going to be like. I saw Sound of Music, and, they sing and dance and tra-la together. Well, it's not like that. But anyway, and of course the children, their mother had taken her own life, so they had they had a lot of wounds and things to deal with. And I gave up my job so I could be with the children. I got real active with them, with Girl Scouts and playground mother and ice cream lady and all the things you do to be part with these kids and everything. And so Jackie was just I was just talking to her yesterday. She was telling somebody, she says, when I first got Mom, she said she was over there, and I'd always think of some way to run in for a Band-Aid to make sure she was still there, She was always coming in needing this and that, But anyway, so, so we all just kind of grew up together, in this program. And we had a lot of fun, a lot of good years. And, and you just, a lot of things, you go through things. But I'll tell you, the last few years have been the most difficult. I've been through more losses and more pain than ever just in these last few years. That's why it's so important that you get that foundation. Because I'll tell you, everybody's going to walk through storms. We all have things. We all have losses. We all have storms to walk through. We all have those dark times in our lives and those big tunnels that we think we'll never see the light at the end, of whatever it is. And I'll tell you, the last few years have been those tunnels. I've been in a long tunnel for a while. I mean, I had hereditary blood disease, and I'd been in the hospital, and they'd painted bad pictures of coming attractions. And I was having some of the manifestations of it, and it was kind of scary. But you see, you can't always believe what they say because, they don't know about our God. He's a God of miracles. I mean, look at all of us. I mean, what was predicted about every one of us, and here we are, And it's because we have a God of miracles. And He answers prayer. And if it wasn't our prayer, one of the greatest prayers ever is, oh, God, help. I mean, how many times I said that laying on the bathroom floor, at the, throwing up, But He answered it because here I am. See, or maybe a prayer somebody else shouted out for you, but He answers them. And we know that. So, see, we can't let all those other things, because we know if He can take that, He can take a little blood condition, or anything else, And so, but I mean, I had that. We had financial reversal, partnership breakup. Our house had been robbed, cars stolen. I mean, the kids were having problems, things that they were out, getting in things that break your heart, and all this kind of stuff going on. All this kind of stuff going on. And, this and a business reversal, financial things, just one thing right after another. And at that same time, I lost both my parents within a year. I lost my aunt a month after 2 days after my mother. My dearest friend died the month before my mother, and my sponsor had moved down near San Diego. I mean, it was just boom, 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 all these things going on and all this stuff going on. And, and it's like a wave come in, knock you over, you get up and just about get dried off. Another wave knocks you over and you just about get up. Pretty soon the typhoon comes. And when the typhoon hits, it all goes, And my husband left and married immediately, and I was devastated. I had no idea. I was in shock. And and then to watch and I had just lost my parents, so I hadn't finished one grieving till there was another, and, just all of these things. And I couldn't do anything about the pain the children were going through and the grandkids. And so it was just a very difficult time, things, and I had to go out and find a job. I hadn't worked in 20-some years, and when you're my age and you haven't worked in that many years, they're not looking for you. And, and I'd have to go out and put my application in, places, and they'd give me math tests, and they knew math, and I'd forgotten old math, and stuff, and oh dear, and then they give me these typing tests, and they took the carriage thing away, and stuff, and I mean, they just did all this, and it was really difficult, but I mean, I just went from one thing to another trying to get, and oh God, and then I'd have, and I was pretty pitiful too, and I was having garage sales and renting rooms, just doing whatever I could to try and make it, and I needed medical insurance because I had this condition and everything, and finally, I was at somebody's 40th birthday and party in AA, 40 years of sobriety, and they knew I was looking for a job, and somebody was in a personnel department. They gave me a job. It was an hour and 15 minutes each way from my house, but I didn't care. I finally had a job, thank God. Oh my God, finally somebody. And so here I am driving in the car, but I'm still trying to deal with all the ramifications of everything. And, and then you'd hear this or that, and somebody is like stabbing you and them turning it, and so, but somebody said, get some praise music. And I said, what's that? And they said, well, you get this music and you sing, and it's just real good, and it says positive stuff. So I went over to this, they told me where to go, and I went to this bookstore, and I said, do you have any praise music? And they said, yeah, and so I got this, so then I sing all the way to work in this car, and I'm singing, by the time I get there, I feel pretty good, no matter what's going on, and then, I worked real hard, didn't take breaks, and then I sing all the way home, and then after I was there 90 days, they did a write-up. They said, excellent, excellent, excellent. And I cried. She said, but it's good. I said, I know. Good. A month later, they laid me off. And, back to the, and then I had to go back. Then I finally got another job, and then they sold the business, and I was out of a job again. But by this time, I thought, well, it's obvious God wants me someplace else, And so I ended up where I am today. And because God takes care of us. And, I needed insurance, and when I was at this one job, I got insurance. I was there long enough to be qualified, and it was a big company. And so they had this COBRA thing, and so I was able to keep insurance at their rate for 18 months. And by the time I finally got my other job where I was eligible for insurance, I was eligible the very first day I would have been without insurance. God's timing's perfect. I was not covered 2 days with 2 policies, or 1 day with 2 policies. One was off, and the next day I was eligible. Sometimes it's down to the wire, but he answers. And so, I'm here to tell you that, through the things, I'll tell you some of the time through all that time, though, the thing that's so wonderful about this program, when you've got that foundation, is you just keep going no matter what. And no matter what it is, some of that time was some of the most precious time. Because, it's like God wooing you to Him, wooing you and calling you to Him. And I would not trade the intimacy I have with my God today for anything in the world. Because, it's just that drawing and the joy that I can have in the communication I have with my God. And I know it works. And it works good. And I know, and the freedom I have gotten that I'm okay the way I am. That's the way God made me, and I'm okay. And it doesn't matter what you think or what you want, but I'm okay just the way I am. And the freedom I've gotten to be able just to be me, and that it's okay. To just be little grandma with I have 4 grandsons, and we have a great time, And, they just think Grandma's silly, but, but we just have a lot of fun. And I'm free to be me and do, what I want to do. Not what you think I should do or somebody else, but what I really in my heart want to do, and I'm free to do that. That's because this program works, and God answers prayer. And I love being sober. I'm here to tell you, my time's up. I'm here to tell you that this program works, and it works good. I'm telling you, you can stay sober with a broken heart. You can stay sober when the people you love and trust the most betray you. You can stay sober with great financial loss. You can stay sober with multiple deaths when everyone dear to you is taken. You can stay sober no matter what. At the end, when all that stuff happened, the one thing I had was my dog. And I used to, the only thing I was capable, I was in such shock when all this happened, but I had my little dog, and the only thing I had to do was feed him and walk him. But he was there with me, you know, to hold on to. 10 days after this, when my husband left, 10 days afterwards, somehow the youngest daughter came over and inadvertently let my dog out. And he was hit and killed by a car. And I'll never forget, she carried that dog in, and she laid him, and she said he was dead. And I said, it's impossible. God wouldn't take my dog, too. I said, you mean I'm not even worthy to have a little dog? He'd have to take my dog, too? And my dog was dead. But, you know, it's a long way to come from there to where I stand today. But it's worth it, because you just keep going, one step in front of another. And sometimes that tunnel's real long, and it's real dark. But I'll tell you, the light comes. And the joy comes back in your life. And you know that you know that you know that no matter what, you're going to be okay. And you're okay just exactly how you are. And that God loves you just the way you are. And that's what I've learned, that you can stay sober through it all. You can stay sober with all of those things, with no job, with no money, with cars stolen, houses robbed, with not knowing where you're going to get your next meal. I mean, where all of those, no insurance, no whatever, no car, I mean, all this. You can stay sober no matter what, because I have. And, you know, and God will answer every prayer. Every prayer. There's not one unanswered. That's why I love being sober. I want to thank you for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I want to thank my God as I understand him, who is Jesus Christ in my life. And I love being sober. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down. And then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.